story about a married couple that got divorced, then remarried, and are now $100,000 in debt from this whole process. So let's get right into it. So, a couple have revealed they are $100,000 in debt paying off their divorce, even though they are happily back together and remarried now. Kinda sounds pretty stupid. So TikTok user Brittany Jade, who posts under at Brittany Jade, said they can see the funny side of their expensive predicament. She said in a video that she had previously wanted the divorce and her husband hadn't wanted to, but had gone along with it anyway. However, they added that they are now married with $100,000 in debt after rekindling their love. Brittany added, "Our happily ever after is paying off a divorce we never got. But for the record, we almost have my side of it paid off." She explained in the comments that their divorce was so expensive as it wasn't straightforward or mutual. The pair had been married for 9 years before separating for a year and a half. So our happily ever after is paying off a divorce we never got, blah, 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 blah. She continued that they don't like talking about it now that they are back together, but they did see other people during their split as they had accepted the marriage was over. Brittany said, "That was one of the hardest parts of getting back together. This story originally appeared on The Sun and reproduced here with permission, blah, 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 blah." So we asked each other what we wanted to know, which wasn't much and nothing more. We tried to come clean about everything in a few conversations with each other because we didn't want to hear about anything from anyone other than each other first. We set boundaries and have no communication with them. They are now happily remarried to one another, raising their 3 kids, with Brittany adding, "What's meant for you will always find its way back to you." So that's pretty much it for this story. And what it kind of seems like, now this is an assumption. This doesn't necessarily mean that this is the case. But based off their statements, where basically she wanted the divorce, he did not want the divorce, some people may assume that she was probably thinking that she could get another guy that's better for her, at least that she views as better for her, or she just basically wanted to play the field. And by doing so, that meant that he was basically free reign of doing the exact same thing. And she probably felt a little bit jealous from that and basically kind of convinced him to come back. Because the thing is, based off their statements, he had no interest in a divorce, like none. So you could pretty much guess that it was pretty much all her idea and that she was probably just wanting to play the field. Again, that is an assumption, right? That doesn't mean that that's actually the case. But the reason why we wanted to cover this story is that this kind of goes to show you that who you end up marrying could be one of the biggest financial decisions you ever make. Even more so than you like buying a home, buying a super expensive car, all that kind of stuff, right? Who you end up marrying could literally be the most costly and the most important financial decision you ever make. And also where you end up basically putting yourself at the highest amount of risk. This is why a lot of people, especially a lot of guys who end up making a lot of money, tend to stray away from not really actually getting married anymore. Like as time has gone on, guys have basically started to basically marry less and less and less because there's just a little bit more risk for them nowadays. So keep that in mind for those that end up listening to this, whether you be girl, guy, whatever you might be, I don't know. Who you end up marrying is a very big decision. It could literally mean whether or not you have a very long life where you end up basically working as a team, basically increasing everything that you do exponentially, good and bad. So, for example, let's just assume that everything is going good. That means you have a partner with you that is going to work with you to where maybe you were originally only making like $100,000 a year. Now maybe you're making 150, 200. Maybe because you're working together, you end up creating a business and now you're making 500,000 a year. Like you never know. But having like two people work together on the same goals is a very, very amazing thing, right? It's always good to have like a teammate. But if you end up marrying someone who is not a teammate and is more like an anchor, or even worse, someone who's actively going against you in every single step of the way, you could end up in a situation where you are going to be in massive amounts of debt and you end up basically chopping off your arm to basically free yourself from that situation and then chopping off your leg to basically give them after everything's said and done. Basically meaning that you're pretty much crippled after the whole ordeal and they end up having your stuff depending on the situation. And again, this could be from like girl to guy or guy to girl. Like it doesn't actually matter. Or girl, girl, guy, guy, it doesn't really matter. Right? So it's going to be very interesting to see what ends up happening. I have a feeling, and again, this is an assumption, I have a feeling that this couple is probably going to get another divorce probably within the next few years. And the reason for that is because the guy may not necessarily do this, but the lady might because she had already initiated it, where basically she wanted the divorce, right? Where she might start thinking that he's cheating on her, even though he's never cheated on her, right? According to this thing, there's not really any talks about it, but basically you could kind of assume that he hasn't cheated on her. But because they've, were split up for like that year and a half, and he saw other people, just like she saw other people, she might end up assuming that he maybe is cheating on her. Again, that is an assumption, but when you are someone who has kids and you actively go for like a divorce from your husband and then you guys end up coming back together, you could kind of pretty much assume that a lot of these like big decisions are falling on her shoulders because she's actively making these choices. It's going to be probably a much worse situation if they were to end up getting divorced. Or it could be even a worse situation in the sense that because she made that comment in like kind of a joking manner, kind of not, where she basically said, "Oh, but my part of the debt is almost paid off, right?" So what happens when she gets that debt paid off? Is she going to leave him again? Again, these are all assumptions, but it gets into a really weird situation when you end up marrying someone who then ends up wanting to divorce you. So you guys both get into debt to divorce lawyers to get divorced so that you end up basically getting back and marrying to each other when there's something obviously going on that caused you guys to get divorced. Or there's something going on to where she felt like being married to him was a big enough issue, even when they had kids, to get divorced, right? There's a lot of issues in this whole situation. Feel free to give your thoughts, but this is why marriage needs to be thought like thoroughly because you have no clue how much of an impact it's going to have on you financially. That being said, if you want to learn how to get out of debt, go to 40inbox.com.